Hello girls, gays, and non-binary babes. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you are new, welcome. My name is Boston. Today we are talking about some essential queer books that I think everybody should put on their TBRs. But these are, in my opinion, underrated queer books that should be more celebrated and more talked about. Obviously, it is no longer Pride Month, sadly, but I do want to put out this video to say that you can read queer books year-round. Same with any other kind of diverse story. And these are books that, you know, I think you should be reading year-round and not just put them on your TBR and then save them for next June. I do have a couple of friends here to join me at the end and you will see them later, so yeah, I'm just very excited overall for this video. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's just get started. So the first book I have is one that I talk about a lot when it comes to queer books, and that is Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. This is about a girl who can travel into other people's souls while they're sleeping, and there's a black door that she sees in everybody's soul. Her mother's never told her, or her mother has told her to never open the door and go beyond it, but obviously she does. And I really like this book for its talk about gender and sexuality. It made it really easy to understand and to put yourself on that chart, and I just really loved it. This was the first book that I read when I was like, hey, maybe I might be ace, and I just absolutely love it. The next books I have are actually a series, and these are probably the most popular on my list, and those are the Wayward Children series by Sean McGuire. So each of these books, I believe, has some sort of queer rep in them. The first book here has a sexual rep. The main character is asexual. And the second one, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, has a sapphic romance. Beneath the Sugar Sky, I can't remember if there is a queer character in this, so I'm not quite sure about that one. In an Absent Dream, it definitely feels sapphic, but it's not like on page sapphic, but it feels sapphic. Then we have Come Tumbling Down, again sapphic, and Across the Green Grass Fields, which features an intersex main character. I have a hair on my hand. So yeah, they are just wonderful. There is also a trans side character in these. There hasn't been a book that has mainly focused on them yet, but overall, really recommend these. And if you haven't heard of them or you haven't read them, you need to ASAP, because they are basically a staple in the queer book genre. Next up, we have a horror, and that is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. But this is a mockumentary style book about mermaids, and they are killer mermaids, and it features a sapphic romance, and there's also a ton of disabled rep. There's an autistic character, there's deaf characters that use ASL, and it's just so amazing. And there's a character with like chronic pain, and it's really just so wonderful. And the story, if you like horror, you will love this. It's so terrifying and creepy, and it will make you scared of the ocean. But yeah, highly recommend this one. So yeah, moving along, we have two books that are in the same kind of world, and that is The Empress of Salt and Fortune and When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Niveau. I love these little books. They're super short, and they follow a main character who is non-binary, and they are like a traveler. At least in the first book, they're traveling and they stop and talk to this woman who knew the Empress of Salt and Fortune in her lifetime, and it's sapphic. It's so queer, it's so amazing. And then this one follows that same main character, the non-binary main character, and they are in the forest, or in the mountains, forest, same thing. It's kind of like mixed together. And these tigers come and they say, we're gonna eat you unless you can tell a really good story. There's so much more to these than just that, and they are so incredibly powerful and have so much meaning behind them, and they're just amazing. So yeah, if you are looking for non-binary rep or just some good books in general, I recommend these. These are really good books to get yourself acquainted with they them pronouns as well. So if you still aren't quite used to that and are trying to get more used to it, then these will help you out as well. So that wraps up my suggestions. So I'm going to leave it to some of my friends to tell you about their suggestions. So we will hop on over to them now, and I will see you a little bit later.
Hi, I'm Teresa from the channel Sappho's Library, and today I want to talk to you about One Last Stop by Casey McKiston. Now, I went back and forth for ages on what book to talk about for this video, but if there's one queer book I consider essential reading, it has to be this one. This is one of my all-time favourites. I'm sure many of you will have heard of it, of course. This is by the same author as Red, White and Royal Blue. It's just recently released, and it has gotten a lot of hype, and it is so completely well deserved. So this follows the cynical August who moves to New York for a fresh start, and one day on the subway she gets on the same train as Jane. And Jane is this lovely butch lesbian punk icon. I love her so much, and just a ray of sunshine. And August does what you do. You slightly fall in love with a stranger, even though you know you'll never see them again. However, Jane is always there when August gets on the train. And so the two begin falling in love, begin kind of working out what's happening here, and they discover that Jane has been displaced from the 70s and stuck on the same subway line, the Q line. And we really just follow their relationship, kind of dealing with Jane's past as a lesbian from the 70s, and just this queer community and history. And that is why I need to talk about this book in this video, because what really stands out about this book is it's just a love letter to queer community, to history, to culture, to all of it. It is so just gorgeous and feels like a warm hug to read. You have got a queer found family kind of situation with August and her new roommates, and it's just the best friendships. And Jane talking about her past as a lesbian living in the 70s and what this all meant. And, you know, this book doesn't shy away from the difficulties of this time either, but you really just get such a strong sense of community here, and I think it's just so important, so incredible. As well as, of course, absolutely gorgeous romance, gorgeous friendship, amazing humour and writing and everything, and it's just, it feels so comforting and so just amazing. I cannot explain to you how much I love this one, how much I recommend it. It is just absolutely stunning. You really, really need to pick this one up. Whether you adored Red, White and Royal Blue or you weren't such a big fan, I think this one you need to give a try.
Hello, it's me, Cecilia from Cecilia Reads. Thank you for having me. And I want to be recommending Black Wings Beating by Alex London. This is a YA fantasy that I feel like is very underrated. We follow Bryson and Kylie. They are siblings and they live in this world that is very dominated by birds. There's a lot of bird terminology. So if you don't know anything about birds, you could still enjoy and read this. Bryson, pretty much, he wants to be a really great falconer, and Kylie doesn't want to do anything with life. She just wants to pay off the family debt and just get out of there. Both of them have a lot of trauma from their parents. More specifically, Bryson, there are a lot of trigger warnings for child abuse, domestic abuse. So be careful of that when you're getting into this one. But pretty much at the beginning of the story, Bryson gets them in a lot of trouble for the man that he's in love with. Bryson pretty much gets in a situation where they need to find this very rare bird that's up in the mountains. No one has ever been able to see it or catch it. And in order to do this, they'll pretty much pay off his lover's debt. And Kylie is understandably upset by this. So pretty much the bulk of this book is them trying to find this bird. As I said, of course, it's queer. Bryson, I don't know if he's canonically bisexual, but he in this book only has relationship with men, and it's really interesting. We see some really interesting character dynamics. I would say this is very I would say it's kind of on the border of character and plot driven and is low fantasy. If you're someone who doesn't pick up fantasy extremely often, but really want to get more into fantasy, I think this is a really great gateway. And even though this is YA, it doesn't feel very YA. It feels pretty grown up and mature. And it's just really cute. There's some seminal characters, there's some romance in here that's kind of cute, and you mostly focus on these sibling dynamics between Bryson and Kylie, which is nice because I feel like in a lot of like YA books, we don't really focus enough on siblings. We focus a lot on romance, especially in YA fantasy. So it's really nice to see that in here. But yeah, I hope you guys pick this up. This is a trilogy. I believe the third book came out either this year or last year. So y'all should go pick it up. Go do it. Okay, go do it.
Hello everybody, my name is Nova, and the book I've picked for my essential queer reading is Felix Ever After. Felix Ever After centers Felix on his journey to find love, something he has never felt before. But the way there is rocky, and it seems to be always interrupted by things out of his control. One day he walks into school to find out that someone has hacked into his social media accounts and printed out pictures of him pre-transition, as well as exposing his dead name. Felix is thrown into a hunt for revenge, but at every turn there's something new waiting. In Felix's attempts to juggle revenge, friendship, and love, he realizes that he can't have all of them. Or can he? This book has so many elements that made me pick it as my essential reading, and I think the love story is a very big part of that. It was cute, albeit very heart-wrenching. I cried so much. My main reason though was how the book explored the trans experience and how effortless it read. I bawled, I laughed, I related, and I just felt Felix. It is a genuine read that makes you too feel like you can have a happily ever after. Felix Ever After also breaches topics like the intersection of identities such as race and sexuality, as well as people's proximity to power and how different characters in the book view Felix differently or act differently towards him because he is both queer, trans, and Black. Reading Felix was a journey of joy and confidence. It made me feel like things like my religion and ethnicity don't necessarily take away from me being queer, but instead amplify it, and that's such a beautiful message. It honestly made me cry tears of happiness. And how he has to deal with transphobia on the daily just was something that made me feel like I wasn't as alone, and that the things that I've experienced in my life just actually happened, but I didn't imagine them. It doesn't really matter how much you relate or not. It's such a wonderful story of friendship, love, and the process of finding yourself, but maybe still questioning things at the end of it and not having it all figured out because you don't have to. But even then, this book provides escapism from the sheer joy of it, and it just makes you believe that for people who haven't seen themselves have a happily ever after, that you deserve one too. It's just one of those books that you want to put in everybody's hands, and that's exactly why it is my queer essential reading.
Hey everybody, my name is Andee, sometimes Mouse, and I am from over on Mouse Reads, and Boston has asked me to tell you guys about a book that I would consider essential reading. The book that I would class essential, the queer book that I would class as essential, is going to be the Cute Mutants series by S.J. Whitby. Also important to note is that S.J. Whitby is actually a non-binary author, and these are self-published. They are incredibly high quality for a self-published series, and I love them a lot. This book is great for you if you really like X-Men mutants, and if you really like sci-fi and young adult books, because this falls into all of those categories. Also, if you like kind of feral and aggressive but sweet main characters, this book has definitely got you covered. So, Cute Mutants is about Dylan Taylor, who wakes up one morning with superpowers, but they're not the kind that you would generally expect when someone wakes up with mutant powers. Dylan can basically talk to inanimate objects and they talk back, which is unfortunate for a lot of reasons. Dylan bands together with a bunch of other mutants who, upon waking up after a party, find out that everyone who kissed Emma has these mutant powers. The reason that I've chosen these books as the essential books is because SJ does a fantastic job of addressing things like gender identity, sexual orientation, as well as the way that those relationships sort of develop for everyone, and the way that the world can both be incredibly accepting but also incredibly judgmental of those identities. And I think that they are handled in a really fantastic way. Dylan learns that they are gender fluid, and the characters do a great job of recognizing that and using different pronouns for Dylan throughout the entire book. There are speeches on being asexual, but also conversations about being on the ace spectrum and how you can be aromantic or gray aromantic or anything like that, and how that doesn't necessarily mean you don't love the people that are around you, but just that your attractions and stuff might be different. And I think that that is really great and something that needs to be talked about a little bit more, and I think that SJ did a really fantastic job of bringing it up within conversation. These books do a really good job of bringing up a whole lot of other conversations that I think are important to bring to the table, but when it comes to queer identities, this is definitely the one because it's got everything under the sun. In fact, even in our first book, we've got a trans main character and the insecurities and relationships within that and how that progresses for anyone, mutant or not. And I think that that was done in a really fantastic way, and that's why I appreciate SJ's writing so much and why I think everyone should actually read this entire series. They're also soft matte paperback, which I think is really important. Maybe just for me, but I think they're really important, so here we are. Anyway, that's it. Again, I am Andee from Mouse Reads, and thank you so much, Boston, for asking me to share what books I think are essential. Have a happy Pride, everyone.
Alright, so that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my friends who sent in some clips of their favorite queer books and the queer books that they suggest everybody read. I could not have done this without you, so thank you so much. They will all be linked in the description box below if you're interested in checking them out. I highly suggest you do. They're all amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!